or let it go. I'm gonna start doing that. I think that's a cool effect for my little corny videos. Hey everybody, this is DJ Chance. I'm here to do a quick review and comparison on the new Numark DJ2go2 Touch controller versus the original version. Now, right away, you can already see what's different, and that's the platters. Now, the platters are now touch capacitive. So that means you can scratch now on the fly. It's playing right now, a little beat, so you can do... So you have the ability now to do some scratching that you couldn't really do before, because with the original version, it had to be paused. So if I pause the track, like you can see here, it's just kind of dragging it. It's nudging it forward and nudging it back. It wasn't really for scratching, but now, if you had it on pause, you could scratch with the original version. So you could do something. But if I hit play, it was just impossible to do before. So that's fantastic that they actually incorporated a scratch feature, which is good as well as if you're trying to queue up some cue points really quickly. Because if you're playing this and you want to grab this part right there, now you couldn't. But I can grab it if I want with this wheel. So if I wanted to right there, I could set a cue point. But I can't do that with the original. So with the new Touch, you can actually do a little bit more. Turn that off and you can hear. So it's got a little bit of a groove on the wheel itself. Now, the original didn't have that. It just had this groove here, so your finger stayed in place, and I really liked that. I wish they would have found a way to make this groove with metallic. Now, I prefer the way this wheel feels. It's also lighter. You can spin the crap out of this one. So let me show you. With this on pause, I can... This had a much better spinning ability than this. It barely moves. So with the new touch capacitive wheels, you really got to just keep your finger on it versus just throwing it like you used on the old ones. A little bit heavier, which makes sense. It's metallic versus the plastic. Now, they've put the metal wheel on here, so you can touch it anywhere versus the plastic wheel. Now, they look like they're smaller on the Touch. The discs look like they're smaller, I should say, than the plastic ones on the original DJ2go2. It's kind of an optical illusion. These are actually the same size, about 1 3/4 inches. Now, the difference size-wise on these is the height of them off of the deck. Now, the original, it's pretty high off the deck. If you can see, my finger is kind of high in comparison to the sync and cue buttons. It's pretty high up there. Now, on the new version, on the Touch, it's almost flush. You can see it's slightly higher than the buttons. Now, for me, that can pose a little bit of a problem, because if you're mixing or cutting, you may hit these buttons by accident. You know, if you're talking over here or you're not really paying attention, and then when you come in, your hand slides over the sync button, you know, and you got an 87 BPM and a 116, and now they synced up, and you didn't want that to happen. It may screw up your mix. Now, the great thing about the sync, speaking of it, is that now you can remove it on the fly from the pad mode button. I talked about this at length in the original video on the Numark DJ2go. I already did a review on the original, so most of the features on here are in that video. So I'm going to cover just the differences here on the new one. If you want to see all of the features that this thing can do, I'll put the link in the description below for the DJ2go2 video. Now, the pad mode, you press it in, and the sync is off. You could not do that with the original. You had it on, you go do that, you press in the pad mode, it was just there. The only way to shut it off on the original version was to do it in the software. You had to, with a mouse and go up there and turn it off. Now to have that is fantastic. I love that they listen to their customers, and they finally caught up with the Hercules Starlight controller that's had that already for about a year. And I'm still preferable to the Starlight. I like a lot of the features of the Starlight, but I'll get into that in a different video. Now, other differences with this that are improvements, the crossfader knob itself. See, they put like the same knob that's on the pitch controls, which was always an issue because you can't really grab the entire button and it gets really slippery, especially if you're in the middle of a club gig. It's kind of tough. You know, my finger was slipping off. And now the new fader is straight up and down. So you've got your entire finger, or more of your fingers can fit on the fader. So if you want to do a cut, it's easier to do because you have the space to move. And I like that a lot. I like that they changed that. I addressed that in the former video, and I'm glad that they made that change. So the differences between the two, other than the touch capacitive wheels, performance-wise, the differences are really just cosmetic. Like the original, they had orange buttons here for the cue pads. I liked that they were orange. They're brighter than the red. You can kind of make it out here. Now, the sync was blue before. I liked the blue, but I could never turn off the sync anyway, so it wasn't a big deal. I would have preferred they had the sync blue on the new version and kept the red. I would have been fine with the red buttons, but I would have preferred that they kept the orange and blue. Now, they've gotten rid of a lot of red on the original, and I guess that's why they put red buttons on here, you know, to make up for the red you lost. Now, you've got the red circle around the brows. That's now a white circle. You've got the 1 and 2 were surrounded by red squares like Moscow, and now they're white, and they're smaller, but the white is brighter. It's a brighter white than the 1 and 2 on the original. And they got rid of the red rectangle that went around the sync and the cue buttons, and the pitch controls, there's little red up and down arrows which you really can't see, and now they made those white as well, and that's better for a dark club environment, so that was nicely thought out. Now the wide lines that they had between the pads are now thinner, and they've given them little corners, and you've got the fatter lines on the original. And now the crossfader lines here are thinner than the original. And you're missing the little markings around the knobs of the volumes. Those are all gone. Why that went away, I don't know, but maybe they were trying to cut costs for all the money they had to spend on making these wheels. They figure we'll do away with paint and graphics and save a little bit. Now, one of the weird things I found that they did with the wheels, and this is something no one's ever going to notice but me, unless you saw this video, is that you see the little markings that go around the wheel, how they go that way, and it goes that way, and it's curved from this side. Well, that's the same way on this platter, on the touch. That one's there, but then on this one, they put it going that way and that way, which is, you know, it's very Australian toilet flushing. It's going counterclockwise, and that's something no one would have ever noticed but me. So just something to think about. So it is a good piece. All the stuff is the same. You know, they changed the master and cue into these gray buttons, which is a good way to differentiate the buttons in the quick mixing in the nighttime. Maybe you're dark in the club. Another major thing that they fixed that I really had a problem with, and maybe some other people, I don't know your experience with it, the USB. If you can see how far that wire is sticking out, you can see a lot of silver, and you can see it wiggles. So any little movement disconnected this while it was playing if you hit that in the wrong way, you know. So on the new version, they made it a little more flush. You can see they're much closer together. You can barely see a groove in there. There's a slight one, but not much. And if I move the wire, I really gotta put some force into it, and I really don't want to do more than that and damage the controller. So that's another huge feature. I'm glad they addressed that, and I'm glad that they addressed the pad mode. These are all one piece. The entire button thing, you can see the whole thing moves. If I moved one piece, so that's still the same. No big deal. I just like to point stuff like that out.
Boys and girls, get ready for electric.
Yeah, I think it works pretty good for what it is. For 80 bucks to have that little platter, with a little more practice, I'm sure that someone could master this thing like nobody's business. But that's it. That's the DJ2go2 Touch compared to the DJ2go2 by Numark. I'm DJ Chance. Master and make money. And don't forget to hit the like and subscribe and ring that bell to get notifications on future videos.
Yeah, I love you.